Ladies and gentlemen, gather round, gather round. It's story time. Tonight I want to tell you about a story. Uh, it's Friday night and I was reminiscing. I went to a retirement ceremony today. It's an Army retirement ceremony. And in the ceremony, I was reading the folks who was getting retired, and I was reading their biographies. And on a lot of their biographies, you could see where they had entered the military. And on one guy, he came in the Army in November of 2002. Well, as I was reading this, I was thinking about my own timeline. I came into the Army in July of 2001. It's a long time ago, so that's like a year before he did, and he was retiring. Now, I had a 5-year break in service where I got out and went and did some business stuff in the civilian world, but I came back in the Army. But I was just having kind of deja vu of my timeline and my life, and I was just realizing of how far I've come and where am I at, and is it time for me to retire, or should I get one more promotion? All these things was going on in my head, and I went to his retirement ceremony afterwards, the after party where he had food and cake and stuff like that, and all I was thinking about was my life and how long I've been doing this, and when I do retire out the military, like what's next. A lot of people who get out the military, they don't live long because they become unregimented and they lose their purpose. I've seen that happen to a lot of folks. They get out the military and they don't live but about 5 years, maybe 10. So it's important, during the ceremony party that we was at, we talked a lot about finding purpose after the military. And as I was at this ceremony, I was just kind of thinking about my life. And when I was 18 years old, what made me want to join the military was I had just graduated high school, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I was working construction work. That's some hard work. And I was out there on a job site one day, and we was putting on a roof. And I was talking to a guy. I can still remember his name. His name was Glenn. And he had his buddy up there with him. And we were just talking. And they didn't know it, but I had already went down the MEPS and took my ASVAB test. And I did all the pre-screening and stuff to get in the military. I just hadn't pulled the trigger yet because I was dating this girl. She's my wife now, but I was dating her at the time. And I was a little worried about leaving home and stuff, and but we was on that roof, and I asked these two guys, I said, hey fellas, I said, have y'all ever thought about joining the military when y'all was my age? And the one guy, Glenn, we were actually on a break at the time, a little smoke break or whatever, but we was up on the roof, and he was up there and he was smoking weed. That's what they do. I didn't smoke it, but that's what he was doing. And he says, yeah. He says, I actually did think about the military. He said, I was on the Navy delayed entry program for a year in high school. And I said, oh yeah. And the other guy, he was just like, no, not really. But this one guy named Glenn, he says, yeah, I was on the delayed entry program, and I did it for a whole year. And when it came time to graduate, I just didn't go into the Navy. And I said, well, why not? And he said, well, I had a girl at the time, and I was dating her. And I just, I didn't want to leave, and I stayed with her. And I asked him, I said, did you end up staying with the girl? Did it work out? He's like, hell no. He said, we broke up 6 months later. And I said, well, why didn't you go in the Navy? He said it just never happened for him. And then you could look in his eyes, and you could see him reminiscing. And he was like, man, think about it. He said, I'd be retiring this year. He said, I'm 39 years old. I'd be retiring this year if I would have went in. And so as I was on that roof that day at 18 years old, I realized that I had to make a move, or I was going to be on that roof 20 years later. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with roofing work, construction work, nothing like that, if that's what you want to do. So I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that my life, I don't think I would have been really good at it. I would have probably struggled there because it's not where I wanted to be at, But so that day, the rest of the day I was thinking about what he said. And so when we went to get off of work, and I was making $8 an hour doing this back in the day. This is back in 2001. And I was a helper. And so that day after work, I went and talked to the guy. His name was Randy. He was the boss. And I told him, I said, hey, Randy, tomorrow I got a doctor's appointment. I got to go to the doctor and get some stuff looked at. But really what I was going to do is go talk to a recruiter, because I done made my mind up that I was going to go in the Army. And Randy says, okay, well, just so you know, if you ain't here, you ain't getting paid for it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I know. He said, okay. So I went to the recruiter, and I asked the recruiter, I said, hey, I think I want to go ahead into the military. How fast could I get out of here? He pulled up my records, and he said, man, we could have you out of here in no time. I said, really? He's like, yeah. I think this was like a Thursday. And he says, I asked him, I said, well, can you get me out of here on Monday? And he says, yep, I sure can. And I said, one more thing. I said, is there any way you can keep me like close to this town where we live at, which was, near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina? I said, I don't want to get too far away from my girl or too far away from my family and friends. I said, I want to be far enough to where I can get to them, but they won't come to me because it's too far of a drive. You know what I'm saying? And he thought about it for a second. He said, yeah. He said, I think I can do that. And he thought about it. He started thinking about where the duty assignments were around us. And he said, I could put you down there at Fort Bragg. I said, where's that at? And he said, that's about 2 hours north of here. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, you know where Charleston's at? I was like, yeah. He said, it's the same distance, just in a different direction. I said, oh, okay. And I knew where Charleston was at. And he says, but you're going to have to do this right here, though. And he pointed to the back. And there was a guy. I'll put a picture here, right here. There was a guy jumping out of airplanes. And he said, you have to do that, though, because that's what they do there. They're paratroopers. And I thought about that thing for a second, and I said, I can do that, because at the time I had never heard about anybody dying from it or nothing like that. So I was thinking, like, well, I can do that. So I said, okay. I said, that's no problem. And he said, all right. So long story short, I got I went and told the guy that I quit. The only thing I picked up my paycheck. I was just kind of done. That weekend I partied hard with my brother. We had a good time. My brothers, we had a great time. And my girl at the time, was my wife now, she was in San Francisco on summer vacation. Her mom and dad, they own restaurants and stuff, and they had money and stuff. And I came from an abandoned home, foster home, and orphanages and stuff. So at that time, I was even living in a foster home, and I knew that if I didn't make a move, if I didn't do something to change my life, that there's no telling where I'd have ended up at. And so at that moment, I had to kind of jump off that ledge, and I did that. And I went to the military. I actually called my girl in San Francisco, and I told her, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to boot camp Monday. And she said, do what? She couldn't believe it. I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. And this is what I told her. I said, listen, I said, I have to do what's best for me. I said, because I don't have a family like you got. You got a restaurant, y'all got money, y'all got things and stuff. I said, I don't have that. And I have to watch out for me. I said, so if you'll stick with me through basic training and AIT, and you'll write to me and we can keep this thing going, I said, I'll be happy to come back and get you. I said, but I got to take care of me first. I said, once I secure myself, I'll come back and get you. And she was okay with it. So I went into the military, and I rode her all through basic and AIT. And when I got out of AIT and was, done with all my training and stuff, I went down there in my uniform, and we kept dating, and we ended up getting married, and things just kind of worked out for me. And so some of you folks might not be going in the military. That's not the angle I'm trying to take you. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, in your life, there's going to be certain moments in your life where you got to capture the moment. Kind of like Eminem says, you got to make a move. You got to pull that trigger, and you got to make a move to change your life. And I don't know what that is for you, but you got to figure that out. And if you hesitate or you wait too long, that opportunity might not be there, anymore. And I'm really glad that I made that decision, because joining the military is probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. And the reason why is because I came from the foster care system. I grew up in an orphanage, and the military had structure. They had a blueprint. They made us become regimented. And for me, and I've always been in athletics, and there was competitive drive that I have. And when you get in the military, they need that kind of person. They want those kind of people. And so that's how I've always been. And so it really worked out for me. And so if you're out there and you want to go into the military, you should think about this. The military was really good to me, and I think it is what you make of it. If you come in here and you put your head down and go to work and do what you're supposed to, good things are going to happen to you. But I don't think that that's necessarily just for the military. I think that's with anything you do. Any organization you get into, if you get in there and you grind hard and you work hard and you drink the Kool-Aid that they're serving, and you become part of their culture, I think you can move up in any organization. And I've learned that in the military, because in the military we move around from different units, right? You don't just stay in one location. Every unit that you go to is a little bit different. So there's a little bit of Kool-Aid in different units. Like the unit that I was in, the first one, the airborne unit, you had to drink that Kool-Aid, right? You had to be an airborne guy. Eat, sleep, and die airborne, right? And if you didn't do that, you get peered out, right? And then you go to another unit, and they might believe in something else, like air assault, sliding down ropes or something like that. You got to drink that Kool-Aid, right? And so I think that's like that in the civilian world. Any job you get into, you got to be a part of that organization, and you got to be completely in to what they're doing, and I think you can move up. So I just wanted to make this video. It's Friday. I was trying to think of some content to come up with, and I was just reminiscing about my life and coming into the military and things of that nature. And today, when that guy retired, he's going to drive off into the sunset, and he's going to go build him a retirement house, and he's going to work on his land. And he was telling stories about what he was looking forward to next, and we were all just kind of laughing and joking about it. And I don't think I'm ready for retirement yet. I want to get one more promotion because I'm competitive, and at this point in my life, I never thought that I would be where I'm at. And the fact that I'm looking at another promotion, or I'm competitive for it, like it's like Tom Brady, right? I'm not Tom Brady, obviously, but a lot of people never understood why Tom Brady or Dan Marino or Michael Jordan, some of these guys, why they would never leave the game, right? You say, well, they got championships and they did this and they did that. It ain't really about that. It's about competitiveness, and if you think that you can still do it physically or mentally, you still want to do it. I don't really believe in retirement. I think if you believe that, I think that when you get into retirement, you're gonna be really surprised, because you're gonna lose your way and you'll lose your purpose. I think the way you should think of it is there is no finish line in life, right? You need to constantly be moving. A body in motion stays in motion. That's what I used to tell my dad. Like, if I was to get out the military and retire and I didn't run no more or do any of the stuff that I do now, or if I didn't be active, that's the quickest way to die. Easy. You go take a car, for example, and if you buy a brand new car from the dealership and you put it in the parking lot and you turn it off and let it sit there for 2 years, it won't crank whenever you go back out there. It's got to keep moving. It's got to stay moving. And in the same way as humans, the way we operate, you got to keep moving, right? And so I wouldn't say there's a retirement. I would just say there's a different chapter. And so I'm not ready to go to that different chapter yet. There's a few more things that I want to accomplish, because this is my story. This is your story, your life. And whatever you want to do with your life, you are the narrator of it. You're the director, the producer, the executive producer, the writer, screenplay artist. You do all that, right? And however you want your life to shape out, you get to do that. And I will tell you, sometimes you got to jump off that ledge, and you got to make decisions in life that's going to get you to where you want to go to. And so I hope this video finds you well. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll have a good night, and we'll see you on the next one.